What if the answer to closing the UK's widening skills gap in manufacturing wasn't more funding or improved policies, but simply better access to robotics training? Well, in today's episode, we're heading to the heart of South Yorkshire, to Sheffield, to meet someone who's putting this idea into action. Mark Gray is from a company called Universal Robots, and he's joining us today at a milestone moment because the company has just sold its 100,000th collaborative robot, or cobot. But while the headline might grab your attention, the real story lies in what happens next. How cobots are being used not just by major manufacturers, but by six-person teams, family-run factories and SMEs right across the country. So today, I want to explore how Universal Robots has grown from a Danish university basement to becoming a global leader in automation, and why their Sheffield base is becoming the nucleus for future-facing manufacturing. So, are cobots the key to a more sustainable and agile industrial future? Or are we just scratching the surface of what local robotics ecosystems can achieve? Let's find out now by officially introducing you to Mark. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Hi, I'm Mark Gray from Universal Robots, and I'm the UK and Ireland manager. I've been at Universal Robots for coming up for 9 years now, and I'm responsible for Universal Robots in the UK. So our daily operations, whether that's sales, training and all the other ancillary parts that go with that.
Well, to begin with, I'd love for you to tell everyone listening a little bit more about Universal Robots and an incredible milestone that you've recently reached. That's one of the reasons I invited you on the podcast. I think the scale of, is it the 100,000th cobot? Is that right?
That's right, yeah. So we reached that a few weeks ago. We've sold more than 100,000 robots worldwide. And considering we're only about 20 years old, we were originally started by 3 university professors in the basement of Odense University. And from that small nucleus of those 3 people, we're now close to like 950 people. And we operate sort of like in 30 global offices all around the world. We brought the world's first cobot to market. So a cobot is a collaborative robot. It's one that's been designed to try and work in the same workspace as a human. And we kind of revolutionized robotics, really, and making it more accessible to smaller companies and also automating sort of tasks that in the past just wouldn't have been able to automate. So we talk about the 3D jobs, the dirty, dangerous and dull. And our robots are aimed at sort of taking over those tasks from humans and letting them use their skills for what they're really good at.
And it is an incredibly exciting time for you. And it must feel somewhat bizarre that you're now looking ahead to the next 100,000 cobots to scale around the world. So what are the key goals or changes that you'd like to see in how industries adopt collaborative robotics? You probably see a few mistakes in your career. So what would you say businesses like to be doing better and how they could better use this technology too?
I think people need to just go onto the automation journey and do it like at steps. There's no rush to do this. That's the other thing. You don't want to make complete changes to your production floor, so you can adopt it in increments. And collaborative robots are kind of relatively easy to live with. They're relatively easy to program, can be deployed quite quickly, and relatively little risk for companies, financial risk for companies to take this on board. So what we say is get the first one in, get everybody happy with that on the shop floor, and then they can start to roll that out. Because ultimately, once automation's paid for itself, it then becomes cost neutral. So you can finance the next robots with the savings the previous ones have given you. So that's one of the sort of main pieces for it, that we want to say to people, they can move at that kind of pace that they need to, and also be more open to change. We're quite backward in the UK with regards to automation generally compared to the other European countries. But it's being driven now more by a labour shortage, and people are starting to focus on the areas where they don't want people to do those kind of tasks anymore. We want to look after people. We get better welfare for them. So, and using labour is it's a valuable resource to companies. So they want to make the best use of it and use robots to kind of fill in those horrible jobs that they don't want them to do. So that's where we're trying to steer people towards. Look for the sort of horrible stuff that people don't want to do first. You can see the biggest results from. But don't change the world overnight. There's a pathway to do it. And if you follow us on that pathway, you'll see success rather than trying to jump in the deep end and really get stuck with trying to alter all your factory to solve all the problems that you don't need solving in the short term, really.
And you raise quite a few incredibly important points at the moment. So I think as soon as people hear about robotics and automation, they automatically think that robots are going to replace humans and the rise of the robots and all those scary headlines with the robots with red eyes. But actually what you're saying here is there is a labour shortage, for one. They're also easy for human workers to work alongside. So it's more about removing some of the tasks that those workers don't want to do. And the UK manufacturing sector in particular is facing a well-documented skills gap. So why do you think robotics training is a critical part of that solution to encourage people to work alongside these and complement each other rather than be replaced by them?
It's really important, actually, to get these skills out into the marketplace, because if you think about young people now training, the technology that they're going to be installing and looking after in 10 years is going to be massively different to where we are at the moment. We do have a skills shortage in the UK in these specific sectors of automation and robotics. And we need to attract young people into engineering and manufacturing because it's a really interesting field. The thing is that you can make something, it's a tangible, if you're involved in manufacturing, you can make a tangible product and export it. And actually, that's good for the economy. So we need to get more and more young people into engineering and manufacturing. And how we can help that is that not necessarily going through the university education route, through apprenticeships. So we launched a scheme in January to put 50 free spaces in our training room. So we'll train technical apprentices from manufacturing companies free of charge. And that's a 2-day course. And they get a core completion certificate at the end of that. And that ultimately would make them more employable as well, because they've learned how to program our robots. But actually what it's doing is getting those skills out into the market straight away. We've got these young people that are going to inherit these pieces of equipment and they can use that and move forward with it. So I think that's the only way that we're going to get the economy to speed up to use automations, is train the next generation now and get them out into the market straight away.
And again, such an important message. It's about attracting younger people and getting them into the industry. And for many business leaders, I think rising costs put additional pressure on apprentice recruitment. So how do you think smarter training programs could maybe help businesses continue to invest in future talent? Most importantly, bring that next generation into the industry too.
I think we need to look at it as an investment, really, as investment for the future. The people that you're going to bring in with those new ideas and those new skills could potentially transform your business. The example we just used there with the apprentices going out, new ways of thinking and being able to implement new pieces of technology is going to increase productivity, increase output and reduce overall costs. So that's where they've got to think about it. It is an investment for the future. And the young people that are out there now, they've got so much more opportunity to learn online. There's so many more different free resources that they can absorb all that information rather than having to go to college or rather than go to university. There's a lot more that they can absorb and actually bring those skills straight away. It's not something that's going to take a long time. It's something that they can use and get straight into the market economy, if you like.
And you're based in Sheffield here in the UK, and for people listening around the world, previously known for being huge in the steel industry and your beloved Blades, Sheffield United Football Club, which here in 2025, it has a growing reputation as a centre for robotics innovation. I think this is something we should be shouting about too. So what role do you think the city itself plays in universal robotics and that wider UK strategy around this too?
Well, we chose Sheffield to be based as our UK base because it's a maker city. It's a city that has a reputation for making products and manufacturing. And we've also got the AMRC here, the Advanced Manufacturing Research Centre, and we've also got Hallam University and Sheffield University, and we have close relationships with both of those. And that is why we wanted to be here, because it's a bit of a cauldron, if you like, for getting the next generation of talent and being able to push those people out into the market, but also all the smaller companies, the startup companies that are around us, that are satellites around us. It's almost like forming a cluster. And if you think about it, Sheffield is perfectly located because it's right in the middle of a triangle of the three biggest manufacturing hubs that we've got in the UK. You've got the Northwest over in Liverpool and Manchester, you've got the Northeast, and then you've got the Midlands. And we're right in the middle of that. And being able to support all those manufacturing operations and all the educational establishments that go around that makes us absolutely ideal to be based here. So that's why we wanted to be here, to continue that proud history that Sheffield has of manufacturing things and really punching above our weight, really, if you like.
As you said there, you've got the perfect location. Are you also passionate about really bringing this next generation into the industry? And as you said a few moments ago, you offer this free technical training for apprentices. So just going back to that point you made a few moments ago, what was it that inspired that initiative initially? And also, what kind of impact are you seeing so far that this initiative is having?
So it's a good question, because we sit on lots of advisory boards and there's lots of trade associations. And the point that you brought up about skills and the skills shortage in the marketplace is always top of mind. It's the first thing that everybody mentions. And we kept going back to these guys and saying, well, what are we going to do about it? And nobody had an idea. So we thought, okay, we'll be a bit of a disruptor. If we offer this free of charge, we'll challenge all the other robot companies to do the same. And so far, we're the first to do this because we believe passionately in training up the next generation of engineers. And that's why we launched it. So we launched 50 free spaces. We'll do that every January. And then so far, I think we've had 23 cohorts who've gone through, and we're still waiting for the remainders to be booked up for the rest of this year. And what we've seen is already people who've gone out there with the skills into those manufacturing businesses are starting to use those to program some of the robots that we've previously supplied, and are also looking at new projects as well. So we're seeing a sort of a knock-on effect of that. It is actually really, really important to get young people energized in this. And if you were just if you think about it being a maintenance electrician or a maintenance mechanical fitter, having this as part of your skill set is actually going to make you more employable for the future. So we've seen real enthusiasm for the young people that when they come here, we need people with those kind of skills now, like the iPad generation. My son's like this now. He's a content creator. They can understand technology and adapt to new technologies much quicker than people in my generation can. So that's why we want to try and attract those people into this, because they bring a real energy to it, a real inertia to it. And that's what we want to be able to do for the next sort of manufacturing phase of companies for the next 10, 15 years, really.
As you said, you want to make this industry exciting and for young people to bring their energy into the space. I'm curious, how have you seen the perception of cobots evolve since back in 2008, particularly among UK-based manufacturers who may have once been a little bit hesitant or weary of adopting automation? I think by a long shot, when COVID hit, that changed a lot of the conversation around automation. But what have you seen here? How has attitudes evolved?
It's changed, really. I mean, when I first started, cobots were still being talked about by only large companies. Big multinational corporations were the ones who traditionally would use traditional automation and robotics. But small companies weren't really looking at this as an option. That's completely changed. In the UK, we're heavily involved with the SME market, smaller manufacturing businesses, and some micro businesses. There are some companies that are 6 people and they've got 4 robots as part of their team. And that's not normally the kind of size of company that you would see, but they use those robots to run throughout the night when nobody's there. So that increase in output has actually made them more profitable. We've seen the attitude change because we've had to. As you say, we face a labour shortage, and that's not just because of nobody coming into the industry, but it's also the existing population ageing. I'll give you a statistic. The average age of a welder in the UK is 55. So in the next 10, 15 years, we're going to have a huge gap to fill. Now, you can use robots to make an automated welding cell, and they can take over the sort of tedious, repetitive stuff and let your welders really use their skills on the high value stuff. And we are seeing that now as well, that people are using robots to fulfill the skills gap in certain things so that they can actually get better value out of the people that they employ. It's going to be a big change for the economy and a big change in the next 10, 15 years of how we adopt this technology. And one of the things that we like to say is, if you think of the robot as a tool, everybody wants to use a tool to make something easy. You know, if you want to put a screw in, you don't use a manual screwdriver, you'd use a battery screwdriver. It's the same with thinking about it in the terms of a robot. If you use a robot to do that task, it then gives you more output and you can concentrate on something else. So that's how we're seeing the change from being it's only large companies that could use it to everybody using it. And we've got a real range of companies and a range of applications that we see from all sorts of different industries, plastics, medical devices. If you have a hip implant, there's a good chance that the hip has been polished by a robot before it's been sent onto the medical facility. There's all sorts of things where testing of COVID you talked about, we sold robots into companies to test COVID samples to speed up the results. So we've seen all sorts of different industries adopt this and seen benefits from it quite quickly as well.
And as the pace of technological change continues to ramp up, we're going to see more rapid changes in both technology and workforce dynamics. So for anybody listening, especially business leaders or manufacturing leaders anywhere in the world to our conversation today, what advice would you give them, especially if they're just maybe looking at exploring how they could start their journey in collaborative robotics? Maybe you've set off a few light bulb moments today, but what advice would you offer them?
So the first thing is you could research a lot. We're on our website, and we've got a really comprehensive website where you can actually see examples and case stories. We've recorded webinars on specific industry topics. So if you're making medical devices or pharmaceuticals, you can stream a webinar and it will show you how the robots can bring benefits to that. And there are also case stories of companies who've used that. There's also a line walk initiative where we can come and do a line audit free of charge, walk through your facility and look for potential applications and advise you on ones that are relatively simple, the ones that are more complicated, and give you an indication of cost as well. And we do that free of charge to try and guide people on the pathway without letting them trying to stop them make those pitfalls in the past. So we do the line walk initiative. There's lots of stuff online that they can look at. We have a really sort of vibrant YouTube channel that we're always constantly posting new applications so they can see processes that might be relatively similar to theirs. Or also, we carry out events called roadshows in the UK. So we did one a few weeks ago down in Banbury. We've got one this month in Edinburgh on the 22nd of May, which is at the National Robotarium. And people can come to these events for free. We'll have demonstration cells set up and we'll actually show the kind of tasks that they can automate. And they can ask us questions and we can advise them from that point onwards, really.
Well, thank you so much for not only sharing your insights, talking about the technology and the great work you're doing, but I think that inspiring message, that call to action for younger people listening, that this could be a great career where you're working alongside some incredibly cool technology and robotics. But before I let you go, I'm going to ask you to leave one final gift for everyone listening, and that is a book that has inspired you or means something to you, and in fact, a song that means something to you that we can add to our Spotify playlist. So what would you like to leave everyone listening and why?
So it's a bit of a cliche, but my favourite band is Kraftwerk. And I think the most appropriate single would be The Robots by Kraftwerk. They really saw the future coming in 1977 to where we are now. And my favourite book, I think, which I found really inspirational, is the Arnold Schwarzenegger book, Be Useful. He talks about how he's lived his life and always looked to be onto the next stage, from going from a bodybuilder to an actor to ultimately being the governor of California. So he's reinvented himself 3 times into really difficult situations. He was really inspirational in everything that he said, and I agreed with all the points that he made in there, that for what you've got to do for life, you've got to sort of build yourself up, find a pathway and move forward and keep going forward. And that was really inspirational for me.
Love that. A great choice. I'll get the book added to our Amazon wish list. And what a great song there. Kraftwerk were a band way ahead of their time. And I believe, have you got a video on your YouTube channel utilising this as well?
We have a UK YouTube channel called Cobots UK. And we've actually created a video where we've got robots loading a vinyl record onto a record player, putting the tone arm across, and then they start to dance to the robots.
Oh man, I will add a link, or I'll embed that into the blog post associated with this episode. I urge everyone listening to go check that out. And you've delivered a powerful message to not only manufacturing leaders but younger people too, who might be interested in joining you and learning from you. So whether you are a manufacturing leader or you're a young person, or maybe there's a parent listening thinking this could be perfect for my child who's unsure of what they want to do in the future, where would you like to point everyone listening?
I would say the best bet is to go to our website, which is www.cobots, universal-robots.com. Everything's on there. You can book line walks, you can see individual case stories, you can learn more about the products on there as well.
Fantastic. I'll get links added to everything there, and love chatting with you today about maybe busting a few myths around automation, about robotics and cobots, and also that important message of bridging the skills gap, why investing in robotics training is critical for the UK manufacturing sector, and also the impact of rising costs on apprenticeship recruitment, how you found a solution to that. And most importantly of all, I want to put Sheffield on the map as a robotics hub. So much great initiatives coming out of there at the moment, and just a big thank you for sharing your story and having time to leave us with a killer Craftwork track too. Thanks again.
Thanks, Neil.
So as we wrap up today, I think it's clear that Universal Robots isn't just building machines. It's actually building momentum for a new way of thinking about work and new ways of attracting younger people into the industry. From automating the mundane to opening the doors for apprentices through free training schemes, Mark and his team are pushing robotics beyond the buzzwords and into real-world impact. And I think whether you are a business leader thinking about how to introduce automation without ripping up your production floor, or if you're a younger person curious about a career working alongside collaborative robots rather than being replaced by them, I think there was something in this conversation for you. And speaking of you, over to you. Have cobots already found a place on your production line? Or do you see this as a stepping stone towards something bigger in the world of manufacturing? Well, let me know your thoughts. Email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, just @NeilC.Hughes. Be sure to check out the video of Craftworks, the robots being spun by cobots on the Universal Robots UK YouTube channel. I'll be adding a link to that. That is something you're not going to want to miss. And then if that's not enough for you and I've left you wanting more, why not come back again for another episode? But thank you for listening today, and I'll speak with you all again very soon. Bye for now.